Hello and welcome to another episode of the Appelboom Bites podcast. Today's episode number 31, and it's going to be an amazing episode because we have two great guests. One of our guests is our co-host. It's his last episode for now. Hopefully we will see him back one day, but his 5 episodes are over. So welcome on the show again, Michael Baltinger, aka Scrively. How are you doing, Michael?
Hello, I'm quite okay. I'm a Lakers fan, and the Lakers have just been kicked out 4-0 by the Nuggets recently. So that's what makes me not that happy. But other than that, it's a pleasure to be here with you two guys today. So thanks for having me.
It's always great. It's always great to see you. And hopefully your last episode will be an amazing one. Because we have a great guest. And this is the one and only Joe Crace, as the Gentleman Stationary. Welcome on the show, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be on. How are you all doing?
It's great. It's great to have you. So we're going to just talk a little bit about writing, about stationery, and just making some fun. But before we start doing that, we always do the pen check first.
The pen check.
Michael, would you like to start with your pen check?
100%, and I like to close the circle to the first episode when I think my pen check was the Lamy 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Today I have its little brother with me, which is like a quite underestimated pen that people rarely talk about, but I think it's a brilliant little pen, which is the CP1.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's, I think it's designed by the same guy that designed the Lamy 2000, I afforded it the luxury to have like a gold nib. Because wow. I love the Lamy gold nibs because they have quite some nice bounce to it. And then when you're like an extra fine or fine fan like myself, then you see that bounce even in a little bit of line variation, which is beautiful. It is a slim pen, sort of like, like a little bit, almost like a pencil. So if you don't like very thin pens, then that's maybe not for you. But I'm a great fan of it. It's beautiful design. It's very affordable. And I think a pen that should be talked about much more often. CP1, that's my pen check for today.
I think it's a really underestimated fountain pen. It's nobody's talking about it, but a lot of people have it. I know that for a fact. So and it's funny that you're talking about that gold nib, because a lot of people are not aware of that gold nib option on almost all the Lamy fountain pens, and we even sold a gold nib lately on a Lamy ABC. So there was a customer coming in the store, and she told me like, yeah, I just want to have a Lamy gold nib on a fountain pen. And I was like, yeah, okay. So on what fountain pen? Lamy 2000 or whatever model you want. No, it's just the cheapest model that you have. All right, yeah, the Lamy ABC. So she bought the Lamy ABC with a gold nib. So that was quite ironic. But she was happy with it, yes.
That's amazing. That's the most important.
Yeah. Joe, what pen do you carry with you today?
I am carrying with me my work pen that I've been using this week, which is a Pilot Custom 823 in the amber color. And it's one of the, this particular pen's about 6 years old. It's one of the first really nice fountain pens that I purchased for myself when I started really getting deep into pens and fountain pens in particular. And this one has Iroshizuku Tsukiyo in it, which is one of my favorite blue-black inks. This nib started as a medium, but I actually had it ground by Mark Backus at nibgrinder.com into a sort of a Naginata style nib, which has become probably one of my favorite daily writers. And I love this. I love this pen. It's always inked up.
It's an amazing pen. I think a lot of people have that 823 in their collection. It's a favorite for many.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. I'm also a fan of the Lamy gold nibs. I think they're the gold nibs like the one you have on the CP1. I think they're incredibly underrated, and I've retrofitted most of my studios to have that nib.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Great.
You don't have a Lamy ABC with a gold nib?
No, I don't. I've actually never tried a Lamy ABC. I need to get my hands on an ABC.
Yeah, you should. You should. I
The
use
last
them.
time I had one was elementary school.
Yeah, me too. And you know what I use it for the most? For chewing on it, because it's great to
Yeah,
chew on.
the red thing.
Yeah.
It's great. And you know, back in the days, like we didn't call it fidget toys, but it sort of was a fidget toy then, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely, you know, but also the wood, it was so strong, you know, it was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of Lamy ABCs were destroyed by mouths of little kids, but it is what it is. Let's go to my pen check. I have here a fountain pen with me that came in actually today. We're recording this on, which day is it? Tuesday. And it just came in. It was an exclusive that we made in collaboration with the one and only Stephen Brown, SBRE Brown on YouTube. And it was a collaboration together with Leonardo and Jonathan Brooks and Stephen Brown and Appelboom. So, you know, all the amazing people combined. And this was the result. It is the Leonardo SBRE Brown limited edition fountain pen. It is the Momento Zero Grande 2.0 with this wonderful ink window inside, and it has a gold nib on it with the Stephen Brown logo as well. And yes, we are happy that they finally came in. So they were planned for May, and they come in the last week of May. Our nib specialist, she will check some nibs, and then we go and start sending them all out to the lucky customers. We were able to get them because they were sold out in just a few days. It was crazy. Talking about that, Michael, when are you coming out with a Scrively limited edition?
Yeah, the day before yesterday, I would say.
And you, Joe? A Gentleman Stationery limited edition. That would be great.
I've actually got something in the works that might be coming out this summer. I'm working with a small maker in the U.S. On a project that I should be able to announce in the next month or so. But we're aiming towards the middle of the summer.
Oh, this is really cool. So we now have this little scoop, you know? Everybody is now exciting. Everybody has to wait for a month till you come up with the news.
Well, we've picked the material. It's going to be both a custom material and we're working on the pen now. So it'll be fun. It should be. I'm not sure if we're going to make it a limited edition or not. We're not going to number it because it's kind of hard to gauge. I've never done one of these before, so I'm having a hard time guessing how many to make. So we'll do a first run unnumbered, and then if there's more demand, we'll make more.
Oh, nice. I like that idea. All right. Zeynep was our guest last week, but we had some problems with the audio, with the recording, so we're still hoping to figure that out so we can still have that episode online. But she had a question for our next guest, and that question was, she actually had two questions. The first question was, what is the most convenient ink bottle, Joe? What do you think is the most convenient ink bottle?
I would probably go with. I've always been partial to the Lamy ink bottle because it's got the little well in the bottom, and I would say second is Waterman because you can tip it on its side. Any ink bottle that lets you fill a bigger nib or lets you get the last little bit, that makes it easy to get the last little bit of ink out of the bottle.
Do you use the paper that's inside the Lamy ink bottle?
I do, but I only, oddly, I normally fill my 2000s with that. So that's my kind of 2000 ink bottle, and that little piece of paper works really well to clean off the 2000 nib.
Yeah,
you have to use a lot of it to clean off bigger nibs. If you're filling something like a number 8, it uses a lot of paper.
Yeah, then you need the entire roll to clean up the nib. That's not good. All right. The second question of Zeynep was, what do you think about paper coating? Do you prefer coated or uncoated paper, Joe?
Uncoated. My favorite paper right now that I've been using lately is the Midori cotton paper. I like cotton paper just because I like how it feels, and I like that it dries a little bit quicker. In my day job, my life apart from Gentleman Stationer, I'm an attorney, so I write and I take a lot of notes, and often I need to turn the page very quickly. So I need paper that will dry reasonably quickly. And the Midori MD Cotton right now is my favorite. And it's either completely uncoated or the coating on it is very subtle. I don't mind coated paper. I'll write on it, but more for practical purposes, I prefer uncoated.
What do you think, Mikael?
I mean, the ink bottles or the coated paper?
Both. Why not?
Both. So on the ink bottles, I agree with what Joe said. If I'd had to pick two different ones, I would perhaps pick the Mont Blanc one, the little shoe, which is pretty convenient, and then perhaps the Iroshizuku ink bottles. I think they're also very, very convenient to fill. I think one of the more difficult ones are perhaps the Caran d'Ache chromatic ones, who can't even stand straight when they're so don't ask me. And with the paper, I'm in Joe's camp as well. I think my favorite daily driver is the Leuchtturm 1917. I like that paper quite a bit. They are very, very conveniently available in all kinds of like sizes and as calendars and regular notebooks and different colors and so on. And I think the paper's pretty good.
Isn't it really convenient?
Obviously, it's important for me to not have, Tomoe river paper that takes forever to dry.
No, that's not convenient for you. But especially the Leuchtturm paper is indeed very convenient. That it's available in so many sizes, in so many ways. So it's really nice. They also now have thicker paper, right? 120 grams, I think.
It could be. Yeah. Could be.
Yeah. Joe, let's talk a little bit about your journey with the Gentleman Stationery. Because I noticed that you started picking up the YouTube channel again.
Yes. And, it's kind of, the Gentleman Stationer is something that I started back in 2014. So I've almost been doing this for 10 years now, which is surprising. I've been shocked at how it's taken off and how long I've been able to keep it going. It started out as a project I was doing very late at night, right after my daughter was born, and I wasn't getting much sleep, and I was upstairs in my office waiting for her to fall asleep, and I started writing posts as I was using my pens and cleaning my pens and filling them. So I kept it going. I've kept it going over the years. I've grown. I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of pen shows, and just ended up really enjoying the process of exploring different types of writing instruments and different all the different inks and the various types of paper. The which is probably my favorite aspect of it has probably become the paper. As the more and more I get into it, the part of this that speaks to me the most, and the part that I tend not to lose interest in over time, has been really the paper and the notebooks, and learning about how people actually use these products in their day-to-day life, which is interesting to me, and to see how it goes beyond collecting. The YouTube channel, I've always had a YouTube channel, and I mainly just used it to post demonstrations that I would link to in my reviews. So if I wanted to show how a unique fountain pen or a unique product worked, I would sometimes have to fill a pen and then film a little video and show it on the YouTube channel, and just embed the video in the post. But the more and more I got into it, after 10 years, you start running out of things you can write about in a unique way. And sometimes you need to mix things up and start taking some new approaches to keep things interesting. So I've started doing a little bit more of the educational type YouTube posts. I have a lot of people who read Gentleman Stationer who aren't necessarily into fountain pens. I talk a lot about notebooks and notebook systems, multi-pens, pencils, and you get a lot of a big part of the readership are people who are primarily interested in that stuff, but they're also getting interested in fountain pens as fountain pens get more popular. And so I get asked a lot for some of the more basic information. Well, how do I fill this pen? Or how do I clean this pen? And that's stuff that's easier to show in a video format.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than a blog post.
Makes sense, huh?
So I'm going to be doing more of that. The YouTube channel's at The Gentleman Stationer, very straightforward. And there's not a lot of stuff up there now, but I'll be adding it in the coming months and maybe the coming years, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. No, but I think it's a really good thing of you to focus on that. How do you say that? The starting of how to fill a fountain pen. The basics actually of using a fountain pen, because eventually, if you're looking for something on YouTube, it's that's what you want to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have such videos, Michael, on your channel.
Well, I toyed a while with the thought of, and I think I made a couple of episodes on that, educational videos for lefties, because obviously I'm a lefty, and I think we talked about it the last 5 episodes here and there, that there's a lot of misconceptions about lefties and fountain pen use. So I think I've done 1 or 2 videos on that, which was very well received. I have made a video on how people can make their own notebooks with fountain pen friendly paper. That was like a very, very popular one. And I had a couple of videos that I think I called them the bullet journal workshop, where I sort of like showed because Joe talked about it, right? Note-taking systems and so forth. So I showed a little bit, how I do bullet journaling. I don't do it the original way. I have like my own hacked way. And I just recently had like an Instagram person asking me in a private message if I could, again, do a video where I just show my personal setup of like, how do I do personal note-taking and planning versus work note-taking? What notebooks do I use? So I think people are overall very, very interested in what are the setups that people use. Yeah. So I've been doing a couple of them. I started a couple of series that I then wanted to do, more, but then Joost keeps sending me stuff for review, and then I can't do it all at the same time. So then
sorry. I will not send anything anymore now.
Thank you. It makes my life easier. No, good. I was just joking. Have a couple of those and plan to do maybe, the occasional one here and there. Oh, one more that I forgot, sorry, is one series that I also started, and that I think is called Inside Stationery, which is actually like a blog that I made where I said, like, instead of always only reviewing products, let's actually interview the people that make the products. And what I'm very, very proud of is that, like, I think the second episode of it, it's on my blog, Scrively.org. I have interviewed Wolfgang Fabian, who by that time was like, I think almost 80 years old. And he's the designer of the Lamy Safari. And that's like perhaps the most really iconic fountain pen in the world, right? So like, so if you're interested in an original interview with Wolfgang Fabian, the designer of the Lamy Safari, then you know where to go.
That was a blog post or was a video?
It's a blog post. Yeah, it's a blog post.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. I think that must have been a really interesting interview for you.
It was absolutely amazing. And I assumed that Wolfgang, I wrote him and I assumed that he will never get back to me because he's such a busy man. But the opposite was true. He told me that was perhaps like the 5th or so interview in his life. He didn't give a lot of interviews, and he offered to talk to me even more. We talked for 1.5 hours. It was as an absolutely fascinating man. It was very interesting. He talked to me about how he interviewed with Dieter Rams, in the beginning, and then he talked about the beginning of the Bauhaus movement, and he talked obviously about the Lamy 2000. He talked about how this whole idea between him and Lamy happened with the Lamy Safari. So it was a very, very fascinating interview, and he's a very humble man, but with a very, very great mind.
Really cool that you had the chance to do that. But let's go back to the Gentleman Stationer, because how did you all started this whole thing? So besides you started to write blogs because you had a newborn and he or she kept you awake. We all know this.
We do.
Well, I first got it. I've written with fountain pens and been interested in stationery all my life. Fountain pens specifically, we never used them growing up in the United States. It just wasn't something that you would find outside of a very high end stationery store like the Mont Blanc stores. My first exposure to them was when I lived in Europe for a year in college. I studied in Strasbourg in France for a year at the university, and there, nobody took notes on computers. It was still in the late 90s, early 2000s, which shows my age a little bit. But but everybody used fountain pens, and I picked them up and never put them down. I came back from France with a suitcase full of the Clairefontaine loose leaf paper and a bunch of fountain pens and a gallon bag. You remember when you could buy Pelican or Lamy blue cartridges with the eraser pens by the gallon bag, and you could I brought them back with me. And so that's kind of my origin story. And then once I graduated from college and got a job and could afford to go to the stationery stores, I kept it up, and I purchased a couple of nice pens that I used occasionally, but didn't really get into fountain pens again until 2010 or so. Mm-hmm. And I just found one of my old pens from school and picked it up again and started using it, and got on the internet and started looking around saying, oh, I wonder if people still sell these here, or what's going on, and discovered Fountain Pen Network and got on FPN, and then just went down the rabbit hole.
Where we all been. Nowadays, you also sell a lot of stationery on your website. That was not in the beginning. That's only since a few years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a project that actually my daughter and I started during the pandemic. Okay. When we were both at home, and I wanted to. That really started out of a desire to build up to where hopefully at some point I could open a store, or at least have some sort of experience for fountain pen users and stationery enthusiasts in my hometown, where I live in the United States. We don't have anything like that here, and there are not really a whole lot of options locally. But there's also a lot of interest and a lot of demand. We have a big pen club. So that was kind of where that started, and it's gone really well. It's morphed into kind of an expression of a combination of my interests and my daughter's interests. So you've got a lot of different things in there that we try to find things that are a little bit off the beaten path, that maybe don't get as much attention, whether they're from smaller makers or they're somewhat unusual products that are difficult to find elsewhere. We're trying to bring something new and a little bit unique to the table, while also having stuff here locally that people in our town can pick up. Mm-hmm. And what's been interesting is getting to meet all the people locally in my city that are fountain pen enthusiasts and stationery enthusiasts who really have been waiting for something like this to happen. And it's astonishing that, given how much everything has moved towards, supposedly everything is moving towards digital, there's also a backlash against it. And there's a lot of people who, you tell people what you're doing, what are you working on, and their immediate reaction is, that's the best thing I've ever heard. Or that's that's amazing. When are you going to actually open a physical store? I'm like, well, I didn't know that there would be interest in that. They're like, oh no, you should do it. You should do it. So that's been really,
what is your plan? When is the store opening?
Well, as soon as we can find appropriate space, we're kind of looking to see if there would be a good location. I want to make sure I get the location right, and real estate here in the United States is in a little bit of a interesting moment right now, and you have to, when you're making a decision that, as you know, when you're making a decision that's going to impact you for 5+ years, you need to get the right. You need to get the right location.
Because you're based in Franklin, Tennessee, right?
Yes, I'm in Franklin, Tennessee.
Yeah. So everyone that's listening in Franklin, Tennessee right now, and it has a beautiful space available for Joe, just, let us know, and we can have a wonderful stationery store in Franklin, Tennessee. Because right now there's nothing about stationery in Franklin, Tennessee, or?
not in Franklin. There's some smaller stores. I mean, they're starting to get some. We were starting to get some stores that pop up in kind of outlying areas. There's places where you can definitely buy stationery, but there's not. I've got a very specific idea in mind as to what I want to do, and I want to do something really fun and really unique that I don't know necessarily exists in too many places, and I want to kind of get that right and build that out. But it's I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a fun experience if we can get it together.
Awesome! Imagine. It sounds super exciting.
Yeah, it is. Joe, you're also really familiar with pen shows, and yes. We are organizing the Dutch Pen Show in a very short time. June 4th is the Dutch Pen Show in Utrecht in the Netherlands. It's a little bit far away for you, Joe, so I'm not sure. I don't think that you will come over. I'm still trying to push Michael if he can come over to the show. But Joe, let's talk a little bit about your pen show experiences, because you have been there as a visitor, but also as a vendor, right?
I have, yes. And I've been to. I started going to pen shows in 2012. At the end of 2012, I went to the Ohio Pen Show, which at that point was almost exclusively a vintage pen show. There weren't a lot of modern vendors there at all, and it's still one of the larger vintage pen shows out there. But that was my first pen show experience, and it was really interesting to get a sense of the community. The next year, I went to the DC show for the first time, and that was overwhelming. Which was a massive. It was back when the DC show was still at the old location, and I've gone every year since. So I've attended DC regularly. I don't believe I've missed a year since 2013, and I've also had the opportunity to attend most of the shows in the United States. There's several of the smaller regional shows I've not made it to, but I have been to most of them at least once.
Have you been to the Boston show?
I don't think I've been to the Boston show. No, that's one of the ones that I haven't made yet, but I do.
I think September 16 or September 17 is the show. So you might want to write it down.
I am writing that down right now.
We will be there for sure. We will be there for sure.
Okay.
So
and I've been to a couple shows as a vendor. I normally go as an attendee, or I'll pair up with another exhibitor and split a table. But it's a completely different experience going as an exhibitor as opposed to just attending and exploring the show. It's exhausting to sell for the weekend, because you're always on, you're always talking to people, and you're managing your table at the same time, trying to look around and visit with everybody and say hello. But it's got its own it's its own experience, and it's also fun.
Why should Michael come to the pen show?
I think, two reasons. First, if you've never been have you ever been to a show?
No. And I would think that it's very exhausting for me as well to sort of not buy all the pens that I see.
That's the challenge. But at the same time, I've bought pens that I love that I don't think I ever would have bought if I hadn't seen them in person at a show. And had the opportunity to pick them up, because there's a lot of things that, you see pictures of it online, and it looks completely different online than it does in person, especially with materials, like celluloids and, vintage stuff. I don't buy. I have some vintage pens. I don't buy any vintage pens online for the most part. I only buy them in person, and I'll typically only buy them in shows because I want to be able to see them. I want to be able to inspect them to see if they work, to check the nib out. That I think is the strongest reason to go to shows. And also you can find some really good deals on gently used or secondhand pens, secondhand modern pens at stores, at shows that you might not necessarily find online.
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, I definitely would like to look a little bit into vintage pens. I'd be interested to have a couple of vintage Pelicans. I'm definitely on the lookout and in the market for a Mont Blanc Hemingway under $5,000 or so. And I'd have a couple of pens for Annabelle and people like that, right? Like there's like a couple of nip jobs that would be great to get done. So
that's why you have to come to the
good reasons.
Show.
Yeah,
that's why you have to come. That's why you have to come. But you really give me like this perfect bridge to the new products.
New products.
Because you were talking about a Hemingway, and the first new introduction that I want to announce this week is the Montegrappa Hemingway Old Man and the Sea. It is a tribute to heroism, and the Old Man and the Sea is a stylistic and thematic departure from the Montegrappa Hemingway Collector Series, which is since 2016 to 2022. While past editions dealt with the author's life, this newest creation pivots to the plot of one of the most iconic stories, the fictional account of the plucky fisherman Santiago and his epic struggle to bring a giant marlin to shore. The Old Man and the Sea was the last volume of fiction published during the Hemingway's lifetime. It was written in Cuba, and many, including the author himself, have called it as his finest work. After premiering in Life magazine's 1st of September 1952 edition, it earned Hemingway the 1953 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. Because of that, this fountain pen is limited to 70 pieces only per writing mode, because it's the 70th anniversary of this prestigious award. Let's have a look at the pen itself. The lost wax casting and hand enabling capture the central elements of Hemingway's story. A carved cap and blind cap represents Santiago's skiff in Cotiba mahogany, while enabled segments depict sea and sky, providing a backdrop of the edition's centerpiece inspired by early editions of the books. A full-length sculpted silver barrel dramatizes the fisherman's struggle with the marlin. Further detailing includes a silver fishing rod clip, a sculptured trim rings, an engraved grip section, and a high-relief cap-top brandishing Hemingway's game fishing monogram. On the lower barrel, translucent ocean blue enamel reveals sculpted detailing beneath. The ocean's current and the sharks who torment Santiago's attempts to return to shore. There was a lot of words. What do you think?
There was a lot of French there.
Yeah. What do you think of this edition, Michael?
It's definitely on the other side of the spectrum of the CP1, let's say like this.
Definitely. It definitely is.
It's a beautiful pen. It's a piece of art, right? Like as many of those Montegrappas, it's like definitely very well thought through, and I like the use of different materials and colors, and the story behind it obviously is very well thought through. So it's a piece of art.
Did you read the book?
I'm not sure if I read that one. I read like one or two. Like I think I read To Whom the Bell Whistles. I think that's one of his books, and then I read a second one, but I'm not sure if it was The Old Man and the Sea or something else.
And you, Joe? What do you think?
I'm liking this. I like the engraving on the barrel, specifically how they've done the two different tones of blue. I think it looks really good. And the wood makes for a nice contrast. I'm liking this. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I think Montegrappa overdoes it a little bit with the detail, but I like how they've left the cap fairly simple on this. I think it makes for a nice combination.
It is. I think they did a great job. Did you read the book?
I have. Yes, I've read the book. I've read the book a couple times actually. It's one of those books that we have to read. We have to read in school here. Once or twice. I've read it once or twice. I think I read it once in high school, and then I think I read it again in college.
Nice. Yeah. No, I remember those kind of books that you really had to read. So those are
right.
those are the books that not always yeah. All right, let's have a look at another new launch. It is also coming from Italy, and it is the Leonardo Momento Magico Pithecusa. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Most likely not. I'm sorry. But this founder band is named after the island of Ischia, the island of beauty. Most likely, I also do not pronounce that correctly.
Name, but
yeah, why not? The founder bands of today are pure magic with magic liquid inside the ink. These tools can tell ancient and modern stories, recalling the splendors of the period between 900 and 700 before Christ, a time when Hellenic culture left an important imprint on Italian territory as well, just as it did on the present-day island of Ischia, whose ancient name, Pithecusa, precisely was chosen to celebrate a historical era that is still able to evoke beauty and emotions. The Pithecusa is based on the Momento Magico model. It features elegant lines with a perfect vintage-style clip. On this edition, the center band is engraved with a three-dimensional pantograph, which gives life to this new model. It has a wave pattern reminiscent of the continuous motion of the sea and the dunes of the sandy beaches of the island of beauty. Important on the Momento Magico is the transparent ink window. This shows the ink level of the 1.5 milliliter ink capacity. The Pithecusa is available with yellow gold, rose gold, and silver gold trims. Cool. What combination would you think suits this fountain pen the best? Michael, you can start first.
I'm thinking of the rose gold right away. I think rose gold and blue is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that looks pretty.
I'd agree with that. I think the rose gold would be my choice here too.
Yeah. So honestly, normally I'm always a fan of the silver and blue combination, but for this particular one, I think the rose gold is quite a good choice.
Beautiful pen.
Yeah, no, I don't know why, but Leonardo is doing a great job on so many models lately. On this one as well, you know, the blue material, it's speaking for itself.
Yeah, I think they really get these materials and color combinations right. I think they're really doing a fantastic job there of like finding great pen bodies on which these materials look absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I know. I'm really happy with this new launch. Michael, we're almost at the end of the show, but do you have a final question for Joe here?
I do. It's like my favorite question. Maybe it's a bit of a dull one, but like I'm personally always really interested in, in that. And so I'm asking you, Joe, the same question. What is your favorite piece of stationery and why? Like your all-time favorite piece of stationery.
My all-time favorite piece of stationery, I would have to say that right now it is probably the Traveler's Notebook, which is my favorite piece of stationery because it's the one that's stuck with me the longest. I use a lot of different notebooks and different planners, and I go back and forth between them. But that's the one that I've kept, and I always keep coming back to it, and I use it. I use it regularly, especially when I'm traveling and going to pen shows. That has all my pen show doodles and my pen testing and messages from friends, and I always keep that on me.
Which size is it that you use? Is it a passport or the?
I like the standard, the bigger one. I like the long. Whenever I write or take notes, I tend to do it in a list format, not a technical bullet journal, but similar to it. So I like the long, narrow notebooks for lists.
And did you find a way to make it lay flat? Did you discover a life hack to like, or do you just deal with it?
You can take the brass clips. That's how you use the Midori brass clips, and I just clip. Or a binder clip, just a standard binder clip, and I'll clip one of those on there.
Or you just put up with
it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Joe, before we're ending the show, what is your question that I have to start with for the next episode with our next guest?
Okay. Well, I'll stick to the yes or no. Triangular grip fountain pens like the TWSBI Eco T or the Lamy Safari. Yes or no?
Okay.
Good one. Very good one. A polarizing one, I know.
Safari. I'm writing it down.
You get some strong opinions on this question.
Yeah, you do. Joost, now you have to write it down properly because you won't have me around next time anymore to decipher your handwriting.
I will write it down properly. No worries. All right, guys. You already mentioned it, Michael, but this was your last episode. You won't be around here next time because our next co-host will be Douglas Redburn. So we will make fun with him, and we will see him here for the upcoming 5 weeks. The first guest is still to be, we're still discussing that, so that's yet to be announced, but you guys will discover it next week. And Michael, I would like to thank you so much for the last few weeks. It was great to have you. I hope you can now, still live also without me in your life every week. I hope that you can manage that, but maybe we see.
It will be definitely very hard.
I can imagine.
Definitely very hard. Sleepless nights. But thanks a lot for inviting me, Joost. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. It was great to meet all the people. It was great to meet you. Last but not least today, Joe. I'm a long-time follower and reader of your blog, and I've never met you in person. So absolutely fantastic to get to know the face behind that blog. So it was my pleasure, and I'll see you around.
Well, Hopefully you come back. I appreciate it.
Joe, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. It was great to talk with you again, and most likely I will see you in DC on the pen show again, and we can talk pens.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was great to come on and to meet both of you. Mikael, I've enjoyed your videos and your blog as well, and hopefully I'll get over to one of the Europe shows, and we'll all get to see each other in person again.
Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, guys. Everybody that's watching, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to us through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or other podcasts, make sure to follow us so you won't miss out on an episode. And next week, we have another co-host and a new guest. Bye-bye.